a virtual welcome to the scene where pixels come alive and reality's a dream. In the cyberspace where magic comes to life, we're dancing through the wires, catching vibes online. We're living in second life, where fantasy collides, you and I. In this digital paradise, we're gonna change the game, ignite the flame. We're living in a second life.
Greetings and welcome to another video. This is a different type of video. I am going to give you a presentation of screenshots from the governance user group meeting from May the 9th, 2024. Kira and Tommy Linden attended. I want to give a big thanks to for the video recording of the meeting and posting it on YouTube. I've linked her video in the description. Please give her a thumbs up for going to these meetings. She goes not only to the user group meetings, but also the support and technical meetings as well. It greatly helps those of us that don't go to these meetings to be able to have a resource to go back and to look and to read in local chat everything that was talked about and or discussed back and forth. Go to her YouTube page, give her a big thumbs up. And yes, she did give permission for her video to be used. She had publicly posted it on Twitter. Now, I've made this presentation to sum up the important things that were asked by the residents as well as information given by Kira and Tommy Linden. I've also made notes throughout to point out my own thoughts and my own opinions. Also, I want you to know that with these screenshots, I did go back and erase out the so-called chatter, people shouting to tell other people to stop talking, being silly and totally not on point, people just being not productive. With all that being said, let's get into it. Carol Linden, okay, I do have to provide these ground rules because we have a privacy policy that we are required to follow as it pertains to abuse reports. We will not discuss any ongoing investigations. We will not discuss or comment on any particular abuse report submitted. We will not comment on action taken or not taken against a particular account. We will not entertain hypotheticals. We are not able to discuss issues with copied or potentially stolen content, as that is a legal process and needs to follow our process for submitting a DMCA. We understand many of you have come here to potentially protest or debate the changes we have made to our child avatar policy. And while we understand that not everyone agrees with the changes, we are not here today to debate the policy. That said, I am completely open to feedback. If you have feedback regarding the policy, we encourage you to submit a support ticket or use our feedback portal. And so you have some chat here. It's more clarity we seek, not changes. I agree with that. I think most of us are here for clarity on these issues. I agree. Now, the comments from some of the users that I did leave in were comments that adds context to the overall questions that have been answered or things that have been brought up. So, in other words, you are not going to listen to us. We are not here today to debate the policy. That said, I am completely open to feedback. So just kind of keep this in the back of your mind as we go on. And Kira responds to the previous resident DJ, that is not accurate. As I said, I am open to feedback, but this meeting is not intended as a debate. The pink are my notes. You'll see my little lines to my notes of my thoughts and my opinions. You'll see breakdowns along the way. So my thought on this was, what was it the point of a governance meeting with the user base intended to be an open dialogue? Ah. The next we have Tommy Linden. Hey all, sorry about that. My PC decided to have some issues at a most important time, as technology loves to do. Tommy continues to say governance handles quite a variety of things such as abuse reports, fraud reports, account security, which, by the way, if you are not using MFA, we strongly encourage it, marketplace moderation, forum moderation, with the assistance of some of our moles and abuse repeals. What is not included in this quite a variety of things is not policy directly. You'll see that in a couple of pages. Back to Kara. Going forward with these monthly meetings intended to increase resident education as it pertains to account purity, as well as being more transparent with the community on abuse actions by publishing some meaningful data around abuse reports. We will also be regularly reviewing and updating trust and safety policies, procedures, and tools based on evolving threats. Someone asked, what do you mean by meaningful data? Meaningful data. That's a new one on me. I haven't heard that one before. Kira responds, what I mean by that is that we intend to publish data pertaining to abuse issues as we're able to. So, my thoughts. So, meaningful data is publishable data regarding abuse issues from filed abuse reports, not including details that may lead to privacy issues. A meaningful data, meaningful to the user, to Linden Lab, to a third party, meaningful data to their legal department, meaningful data like personal details. Moving on. Kira continues, we are still in the process of developing what that will look like. So, unfortunately, I don't have an example to give you right now on that regarding the more of the meaningful data. We are also in the process now of evaluating several different products and systems to help with proactive moderation. Now, here are my notes here on the side. Usually, when I underline something, I've made a note about it. So, now remember, these notes are my own personal thoughts and opinions. They are by no means factual, only in the way that they came from me. Onto my notes. Quote, still in the process. She said it twice. If it's still just an idea on a post it note or just the whiff of an idea fart, it shouldn't be claimed to be in the process. That is confusing language to use. In the previous LabGab video with Kira, she said that the governance department was not going to involve product operations regarding abuse reports and resident matters, I believe. I could be wrong. I can't fully recall what what department was going to be excluded from reviewing those things, but definitely some department was not going to be included in reviewing regarding resident matters and abuse reports. Going back to Kira. We work very closely with product development, security, customer support, and legal to address emerging issues, implement policy changes, and improve Second Life features related to trust and safety. And then someone says, define proactive moderation, please. And Kira responds, we are, as always, dedicated to enforcing Second Life policies and guidelines consistently and fairly, taking appropriate actions such as warnings, temporary suspensions, or permanent bans in accordance with established protocols. And then someone else says, yes, speak in English so everyone understands. Moving on. And then someone else pops up to say, are these proactive moderation tools that LL is investigating automated systems? And as someone questioned AI, Kara responds by saying, more information will come soon about moderation, but we are looking at tools that will help the team identify potential violations of the TOS or CS, which is the community standards. My note reads, considering there is a lack of actual useful information so far, this is not the way to reassure the user base. Will come soon. But we all know about this, don't we? The favorite time phrases that Linden Lab gives us. Soon, later in the year, further down the road, maybe. Great. Moving on to Tommy. I want to also take a few minutes to discuss abuse reports. I know those are especially a hot topic in the community for many reasons. Oh, see that subtle patchwork elephant with little crown. So cute. A resident says AI taking screenshots of avatars and analyzes them, and if the system detects something wrong, RIP. Now, that could be a tool. I could see that being used. Would it be right to use? I would say not, but that's just someone's opinion, right? And then another person says it'll most likely be some form of AI. Speculation, not factual, most likely, don't know, right? So this is not fact. Tommy responds, we understand there is some concern on abuse reports and actions, and we have taken on some of them. And then another resident pops up to say, I think such tools is a massive invasion of privacy and will result in pushback that makes the speeding look like a kid's party. Yeah, I absolutely agreed. So, moving on. And then another resident agrees with the previous resident. Their cost cutting measures, plain and simple, and they don't work regarding to the AI. Tommy says details such as the screenshot of the object, person, or chat being reported, detailed description of the issue being reported, and a timely report. Always report as soon as possible. My note, this is nothing new. Abuse reports have always included these details. Tommy goes on to say the team, however, does not rely on just submitted reports as a driving factor for action taken. Then a resident says, would like to second the previous resident's comment. Do current or future methods of content moderation include chat logging or public or private chats accessible or being moderated by the lab? My notes for this is we learned during the what may or what may not have happened event was that Linden admin powers were used to spy on private chats. Allegedly. Could be speculation. But anybody with any admin powers, coder, programmer, or whatever, unless strictly prohibited within the department or company, then it is possible that the higher ups can go in and, you know, think an essay, think Google. If one were to think that Second Life was safe from quote unquote invasion of a Google type actor, well, no, nowhere on the internet is safe from that. Nowhere. Moving on. Tommy says each report is thoroughly investigated as we understand that there are always three sides to every story. Now, I thought that was interesting. So, my note is I thought the saying was there are always two sides to every story. So, let's think about that for a minute. Three sides to every story. In this scenario, it would be the user, party A, and then person of subject of the report or what have you, so person B, that would be their story between person A and person B. You know, the back and forth, the hey, person B did this, or oh my goodness, or person A did this, or oh my goodness, no, I'm not, I didn't do that, and back and forth, right? So I suppose the third side would be Linden Lab. That makes sense. But here's the thing, neither person A nor person B are actually going to know or hear the third person, which would be Linden Lab, side of the story because Linden Lab does not give progress updates or what happened updates when it comes to abuse reports. All they say is, we got your report, but we're not going to comment on it and you won't know the outcome of it. So to say there's three sides to every story, no, because what's the point of having a story if you're not going to tell it? And in this scenario, Linden Lab would not tell that story. That's the way I look at it. Moving on, a resident says proactive enforcement sounds a lot like cameras and microphones in our homes and hangouts to me. Tommy responds, while we always try to take an educational approach first when responding to reports, there are some issues that are so severe that it will result in a termination instead. Here's my notes, just a thought and an opinion. Does suspension count as an educational approach? What would be issues that are so severe it results in a termination? Allegations made public produced the user base to become outraged and force LL to make new policies that focused on the meat of those allegations involving a high profile employee and abuse of power. Just because LL said they investigated and found nothing does not mean there was nothing to be found. If there was nothing to be found, then this governance meeting about new policies and changes would not be happening. And there is nothing that Linden Lab can do to make the progress of events, the pattern of reaction, go away. Nothing. Moving on. Tommy Linden. We also want to clear up the misconception that the submitting of multiple reports from residents, also known as AR parties, does not mean that action will be taken or even be taken in a quicker timeline. Tommy goes on to say, we also, as part of the abuse reporting process and the actions we take, have a robust appeals process that everyone is able to take advantage of. Appeals are thoroughly investigated by someone other than the initial agent in the investigation. Tommy continues, this reviewer treats this as a new investigation and again looks at all the criteria available before making their decision. In addition, as part of the full review process, the appeal gets reviewed by a committee before a final decision is made. Here's my note. Are members of the product operations team involved in that committee? Because whatever may or may not have happened, that was an allegation that there was someone had the final say of the AR review, and well, but LL changed things up, so that should no longer be an issue. Thus, why the appeal does get reviewed by a committee before a final decision is made and not just one person, right? So this is new. And Kira comes back. We are not going to discuss the specifics around the tools at this time. As more decisions are made, we may be able to offer more information. Right now, we are looking at a number of different tools that have different capabilities. So let's read that again. As more decisions are made, we may be able to offer more information. Right now, we are looking at a number of different tools that have different capabilities. Remember a couple of pages back, I had noted my own thought, my own opinion, because it was lacking in what Tommy had said about what governance handles, quite a variety of things. And he listed a few things, but there was nothing about policy directly. Keeping that in mind, basically, what these governance user meetings are for, I'm going to say it now, and then as we progress through this presentation, maybe you will understand as to why. So we're going to read it one more time. As more decisions are made, we may be able to offer more information. Right now, we are looking at a number of different tools that have different capabilities. So, governance does not directly make policy. What they do is they come up with ideas for changes to policy based from the feedback from the user base. With that information, they make a proposal, and then that proposal goes to the committee, review panel, people in charge, and then they make the policy. Kind of keep that floating around in your head. That's just my thought, my opinion, my speculation based on going through all of this stuff, right? A resident asks, is one banned during this investigation? It's a very good question. The answer by Tommy Linden was, we don't take action before completing our investigation unless we need to hold an account temporarily for its own security. Action is only taken after an investigation is completed. A resident says, Tommy, you stated reviewer treats the appeal as a new investigation. Is the reviewer privy to the original notes, or is this a blind review with only the decided outcome known to the reviewer? This is relevant as any notes taken by the original investigator may bias the reviewer. And then Tommy responds, without disclosing how our internal tools work, we have taken every measure possible to remove any potential bias in every investigation. As you can see, I circled what Tommy said and I put the letter B and S. Maybe that's just me being bitter and jaded after 18 years in Second Life, but well, it's honest. Kira says, we realize some of these answers may fall short of your expectations, and I apologize for that. But due to the sensitive nature and needed privacy of abuse reports, we aren't able to disclose much around the specific of our tools. And my note, in other words, sorry, this was a waste of your time. Moving on. Kira continues, I know that is asking a lot, but I assure you that we are here today to try to rebuild trust with the community. I realize this may be a long process involving quite a bit of work, but that is what I am committed to today. My note, committed to today. Why end that sentence with today? You put a time limit rebuilding trust with the user base. It would have been better if she had just left it as I am committed and gotten rid of the today. A creator says, we really appreciate what you do. There are many of us here today representing various communities, hopeful to receive some clarification. Can we ask some? And so Kira comes back, okay, so on to the not so elephant in the room, and the reason why most of you are here today. And you can see I drew a little line with a little arrow back to the king patchwork elephants. As you are all very much aware and are probably here for, we did roll out a new policy as pertains to child avatars. We have also published a FAQ to help clarify some of these new policies. A creator says, you know, with bots, the account is flagged under the toss of SL. Why not have a similar self reporting method for I identify as child avatar, which automatically interacts with whatever is needed to be policed? I think that's an interesting idea. Tommy says, before we go into more detail on some of the changes, we do want to let you know that if you are here seeking approval or review of your individual avatars, that is not something we can or even will be doing. Kara says, based on the feedback we have seen in the forum thread on this topic, yes, Tommy did read every single post in that 250-page thread, as well as concerns raised on other social media platforms. We have been adding to this document as necessary regarding the child FAQ. We appreciate the time you all have spent discussing and inquiring about these and greatly appreciate your patience as we work to put together some clarifying points. Then Tommy says, I am quite frankly exhausted from reading all those posts. I had to order my coffee in bulk the last few days. Here's my little note. It's your job. You get paid to do it. Don't try to make us feel sorry for you doing your bloody job. That just got on my nerves. All right, moving on.
One of the things that I do not miss from being alive is the curse of seasonal allergies. The sneezing, coughing, headaches, nasal drippings, leaky and red eyeballs plagued me to no end. I never would have believed when the sun would rise one day to be in glee from having empty orifices. If you are suffering with allergies this season as my roommate, Asadora is currently, do not despair. Although I suggest to use a clean tissue. A tissue stuffed up into a sleeve turned out to be not a brilliant idea from my alive days after all.
And now we continue on to page 7. Kara says one of the biggest changes and points of concern is around the requirement of modesty layers on child avatars. So we have added some images to the FAQ to demonstrate what we are looking for there. I have seen the request on the forums to have the back of the modesty layer for female avatars be optional, and that makes perfect sense to me. I need a little bit of time to propose and get approvals for that clarification to the policy itself. And once I have what I need, I can update the FAQ with that new guidance. So we'll go on to page 8 so you can see the images. So as you can see here, these are the examples of modesty layers on the skin itself using the Sinra Blake and Sinra Jamie bodies. Here you have the female and the male, have the modesty layers. So these modesty layers are on the base skin. Cannot remove the modesty layers because they are attached to the skin. Obviously, most of you all know that. Perhaps there is some misunderstanding about the skins themselves, which we will cover. I also want to say that so far, I haven't seen anything official from LL regarding body attachments on child avatars. I suspect that Linden Lab hasn't thought that far ahead, though I do wonder if there is someone at Linden Lab that has. So we're going to continue back on page 7 here. So here is my notes. Who gives the approvals on proposals? What department or department head is the overseer and or in charge of approving policy as well as that which regards the FAQ? Like someone in the product operations department? Don't know. But who gives the approvals on proposals regarding policy? Just a question. So, moving on to what a creator has said, if I may, I have a few rather technical questions to ask. Unfortunately, the way it has been written and expressed leaves room for far too many misinterpretations, especially regarding the technical aspects. Unfortunately, we've been given a rather short deadline, and we need to clarify our obligations as soon as possible. So, as you can see here, there is a creator who is wanting clarifications on obligations. Absolutely understandable. And we move on to Kara. Kara says the other concerns in regards to the modesty layer is how it will impact existing content. To be clear, we are requiring skin sellers to have the areas shown in the images, which we saw on page 8, use a modesty layer on the skin files. However, for existing content, bake layers and alphas can be a viable temporary solution, but we would strongly, in all capital letters, encourage everyone to move to a more permanent solution. A resident asked, how long will this be allowed for? And so time-wise, it is addressed by Kira. Kira says, regarding enforcement of these new policies, I do know that there will be an adjustment period. That's wonderful, isn't it? That there will be, you know, later on down the road, perhaps soon. My little note. When does the adjustment period start and when does it end? There will be another time phrase used by Linden Lab that tells us absolutely nothing. Nothing. Also, Kara says we understand that there is some confusion regarding the age range that would be expected to follow the new policy. So we want to clarify that anyone presenting under the age of 18 will be required to follow the policy in regards to the child avatars. Right? I take that to mean word for word that anyone, humans, anime, furries, elves, fairies, sprites, wolves, merpeople, and anything else that presents in child form, regardless of race, religion, gender, sexual orientation, pronouns, trans, non binary, unisex, even if it's a gray alien with a monkey butted body from the planet Saturn, if they are presenting under the age of 18, which, yes, that does include 17, because 17 is under 18, they too would also need to have modesty layers on their body, on their skin, on their alien birth born base skin. So we go to another resident who says the timeline makes it stressful for a lot of creators to have it done within 30 days. A lot already have massive amounts of balm applers that should make it compatible without being baked into the skin. With using these layers, are we then within the toss? So, given what Kira had said about the temporary solution regarding bake layers and alphas can be a viable temporary solution, then I would say that what this resident asked, it would be okay. Simply going by what Kira had already stated. So, getting this far into the presentation, here's my main number one question. Why have these user group meetings when LL does not actually give us useful information? Why? Moving on. Kira says we fully intend to take an educate and inform approach to these issues and not actively seeking to strong arm enforce these unless there is an egregious violation of the terms of service such as sexualized AP. And then a resident says, I don't want to see my friends being banned just left, right, and center for a crime of being cute. How will LL be treating anime avatars going forward? What assurances can you provide anime avatar users? Later on, Tommy Linden does say, for those asking about clarification on age, regardless of your gender, whether or not you are a furry or participating in the anime community, if you are presenting as under the age of 18, that is required to follow our policy regarding child avatars. So that will mean even anime avatar users that are presenting under the age of 18 will also be required to have modesty layers. So going back onto what Kara is saying further, I could assure that appearance alone is not the deciding factor in most cases when we are looking at abuse reports. So the previous creator who already spoke before says, well, they've answered. There are still many issues that haven't been addressed, but I suppose we'll have to adapt. Then a resident says, "What about furs? The whole body is covered in fur. Is there no chest or bottom area defined at all? Does that clear?" So again, this resident is asking about furs, furries. We go back to what Tommy Linden has already stated. Regardless of your gender, whether or not you are a furry or participating in the anime community, if you are presenting as under the age of 18, that is required to follow our policy regarding child avatars. So even if you have fur, you will still have to have the modesty layers on top of the fur skin. Going to what Tommy Linden says, as someone who has worked on the governance team for the past 12 years, both as an agent and the leader of the team, I can say that we have very rarely taken action on just appearance alone. There has almost always been additional factors leading to action regarding abuse reports or in violation. I have the letter B and then the letter S. That's my little note. Kira goes on to talk about the appeals process. As we mentioned before, we do have an appeals process that I believe allows for many evaluations of that appeal. If it proves to be insufficient, we will reevaluate the process. There are some things that we cannot change, but when it comes to processes and policies, I believe that those require frequent review and tweaking to keep up with current internet trends and community use. Here's my note. What can't be changed regarding the appeals themselves or the appeals process, certain policies or how policies are finalized? And also, I don't understand what internet trends have to do with appeals and appeals process and how they're carried out and determined and evaluated. Well, I don't understand what internet trends have to do with that. I would have thought that a business would simply comply with best business standard practices in the industry. So the same creator from before speaks up. "It seems like the decision has been made, but if I may, it appears to be a very strong and problematic choice for users and creators in many respects." I agree. I absolutely agree. And moving to a different resident, they are talking about support and free accounts. They say apparently, since the person had a free account, they were told support options were limited. So, this is in regards to a person who had a basic account and they had to appeal something, but obviously they were told that because of their basic account that their support options were limited. So we're going to go to page 10. I want to show you all the tickets, all the support tickets that a basic account can submit. And as you can see here, it does include abuse appeal, and also account creation issues, comprom- compromisation of an account, memorial request, activating an old account, web login issues, billing, land and region, marketplace. So these are the types of support tickets that basic accounts can submit. Basic accounts do not have access to live support. Only premium membership and premium plus memberships do, and also some concierge level services as well. Just want to point out here that the only type of support that basic accounts don't have access to is the live support. I'm going to show you once again all the other basic standard, everybody does have access, even on the basic accounts, to the support options. Yeah. There's another little note regarding the furs. I think going by what Tommy said, and I will repeat it, whether or not you are a furry or participated in the anime community, if you are presenting as under the age of 18, that is required to follow our policy regarding child avatars. Yes, baby furs and furry cubs will also have to abide by the new modesty policy. So going back to the appeal process and basic accounts, Kira does say even free accounts are able to appeal suspensions and terminations. And we saw that, yeah. And on to page 11, a resident says, my number one question is that currently what is shown on the new system bodies is a modesty layer that would be more geared to those who are RP and as teens. Will infant and toddler AVs be required to have a bra on their skin if they are female, or would the male version shown be acceptable because an infant or a toddler wearing a bra sexualizes them more if they do not have one on? A creator says, so even infants will have to wear bra lock tops? Here's my question to you. Do you think infants should wear modesty layers? Do you think male child avatars should also wear top modesty layers? I don't think toddlers or babies or infants should wear bras because I do agree with that. I think it would sexualize them. And that's just disgusting. And ugh, moving on. So a resident says, why can't the modesty layer be the same on both, meaning the male and female? Why do the girls have to wear an upper layer? Surely it would be better to have one unisex policy. And a different resident says, what's going to be done about adult avatars going in G and moderate Sims, showing their privates off or having overexpressed appearances of their genitals in these G and moderate Sims? I agree. I mean, here's the thing. In G rated Sims, it is known that, and it is expected that if you are an avatar, this applies to adult avatars mostly. It's a G rated sim, no nudity, don't be showing your bits. Those are mainly the things when you go to a G rated sim because we all know it's G rated, right? Moderate sims, normally people will abide by no nudity in public on a moderate sim, but well, that's changed a lot over the years because you can find all sorts on moderate sims these days. Personally, I think that an adult avatar should have common sense and decency not to show their nudie bits when child avatars are present. Is that something you would do in the physical world? Say you're down at the Walmart, you're having a conversation with a friend, and you're cussing, right? And here comes a little kid running down the aisle, and it's like, you just automatically watch your language. I live in the South. Everybody does this. So it's this sense of decency around children in the physical world. When it comes to G and moderated Sims in Second Life, I think that adult avatar should be held to the same standard. When I'm on moderate Sims or in G rated places on mainland, and there I see, child avatars, I'm more aware of my own behavior. Perhaps that's just how I was brought up because I am Southern, or maybe it's, just, well, it's a child. I don't want to influence that child in a bad way. But that's just me speaking personally. Now, going on to what Kira said, responding to the creator that spoke up a while ago, I'm open to discussing it with you. Feel free to email me or send in a sport ticket to get my attention. And so a different resident says, I had a question about profiles. This is a very good question. She says, they say you could go to an adult sim as long as you change your appearance, adult, animal, etc. But what about profiles? If mine is clearly toddler, then how is that addressed on an adult sim, even if I've changed my form to comply? Kira's answer is if you are reported and you are in an adult avatar, that is how we will evaluate the reports. Now, I want you to keep that scenario in mind because we'll be coming back to this. So, we're going to move on to what a different resident clearly exclaims. Go to many Sims, G are moderate, and most women do not have underwear on, so all is out there, or they have organic material on their faces, and so yet you all go right after the kids. This goes back to what I was saying about adult avatar appearance and behaviors on moderate Sims and G rated Sims that are child friendly. have some decency, you know. But that's just me. That's just my opinion. So we go to a different resident, and her question is, how long will alpha layers be accepted? Tommy Linden directly replies to this. He says, we don't have a specific timeline. We will do our best to notify the community when that no longer becomes an option. We certainly don't want to just outright start actioning accounts and would rather, as mentioned, take an educational approach first wherever we can. Now, see, another time phrase. We don't have a specific timeline. This is in regarding to how long will alpha layers be accepted. You know, the adjustment period. Remember back a couple of pages. So as you can see here, Kira says, regarding enforcement of these new policies, I do know that there will be an adjustment period. So you can see here that neither Kira nor Tommy has any information to give regarding the adjustment period for the modesty layer policy. Tommy says we don't have a specific timeline, but they will do their best to notify the community when that option is no longer available. Do you see why I had asked previously, why does Linden Lab have these meetings if we're not going to get any actual information, especially clarifying information? It's like they don't come prepared. Moving on, a resident says these policy updates seem to unfairly target the community who were not engaged in AP. I don't feel like this solves the problem. Respectfully, I feel it just pushes more work and restrictions onto creators. Moving on to the next page. And we're going to keep with the previous comment because someone had agreed, added to that comment, and they said the people engaging in sexualized AP were already in violation of the policy. And so it is nonsense to suggest that forcing this onto the community will solve the problem. I would say that perhaps this is a rule for thee, but not for me, allegedly. Oh, there's the little elephant king. Oh, shoot. We go back up to the top of the page. Tommy says, also, if we find someone that is continuously submitting falsified reports, we will address that behavior as well. I can assure you, it does not go unnoticed by us. Okay, but that doesn't mean that not everything is noticed because problems. Kira says, if a report is made, we do look at the intent of the resident. We can tell if someone popped into a region, then immediately left. Someone had asked about, well, as a child avatar, if I pop into an adult rated sim and I didn't intend to be there and I pop right back out, will I get in trouble? The answer would be no. Moving on, Kira also says, I hear you all on the modesty layer on infants and is something I'm willing to consider, but I can't promise that any change will be made at this time. And my little note, how can you consider it? Policy isn't dictated by governance. I suppose what is meant by saying that, the willing to consider that Kira will be making a proposal to whomever in order to be made into policy. Because as before, remember, Kira had stated I need a little bit of time to propose and get approvals for that clarification to the policy itself. And once I have what I need, I can update the FAQ with that new guidance. Right, moving on. Tommy Linden says you could absolutely switch between an adult avatar and a child avatar on the same avatar that does not violate any sort of policy. So that means if you have one account and you have a child avatar and an adult avatar, you can switch between the two on the same account. That is not against any policy. Otherwise, if it was, you wouldn't be able to do what LL wants us to do. If you are a child avatar, but you want to go to an adult rated sim, or if you want to do something non child friendly, then you have to gear up in your adult avatar and do those things, right? So resident says, will there be rules on what kind of bras can be made for the babies? I can only imagine what is going to come out of the creations for wraps and bras. It might add fuel to an already lit flame. Well, yes, it's a very good question. Kim says, like I said before, we aren't here to just put up roadblocks for everyone. We are making policy based first on what we see in reports and then consider how that will affect the community. If we have missed a step, then it is only because we can't be in all the various vibrant communities in SL, no matter how hard I try. So, to me, getting community feedback is an important step in this process. Just want to point something out here that I've underlined. We are making policy based first on what we see in reports. So, what they see in reports, like abuse reports or complaint reports or what have you, that's where the original feedback starts in regards toward making policy comes from. That says a lot, considering allegedly. Right. So continuing on with what Kara said, she says cannot be removed means just that. It cannot be removed by any means. This is regarding the modesty layers. It cannot be removed from the skin base. It must be rendered into the skin itself. And in the next page, I will show an example of how to explain the differences between the base skin and layer skin. Now, before we leave this page, the last to speak is Governance 6, Linden. They say, to your question about being partnered with someone, this is something we do not action alone on, as we understand there may be many reasons why someone may be partnered. They could be RL spouses, business partners, etc. Now, this was in regards to a question about partner boxes. So if you are a child avatar and you have a partner in your box, does that affect anything? Does that go against any type of policy? And so, according to this unknown uh, Linden, they say to your question about being partnered with someone, this is something we do not action alone on, as we understand there may be many reasons as to why someone may be partnered. Okay, moving on to the last page. That's right, people, the last page. All right. Kira says yes, and if a new one is applied, then it will need to have the modesty layers. This is regarding skins. So, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and show you how to tell the difference in your inventory because there is a lot of confusion, especially amongst the newer users. You see the little body icon. These are the base skins. Consider it the skin you're born with. These you can replace, but you can't like remove them. The modesty layers have to be already rendered or baked or drawn on or whatever onto the base skin before they're uploaded. These are skin layers, which they can be replaced by removing them. You can wear several at once if you wanted to, whereas on the body icon base skins, you can only wear one at a time. And no matter what you're wearing, your avatar will always be wearing one of a base skin under whatever else you have on. If a modesty balm layer, tattoo layer, or applet layer is on the base skin, it will not meet with the new modesty layer requirement for child avatars after the adjustment period, whenever that starts and whenever that ends, because, well, we don't know because apparently Kira and Tommy didn't know either. No, I take that back. Kira did know that there will be an adjustment period, and Tommy did not have a specific time. So, again, nobody knows. So, until then, the Modesty Balm Layers is a temporary solution. Also, if you alpha your parts out as a child avatar, that's also a temporary solution. So, hopefully, that makes sense there. Right, now we're going to go back to the previous page. Now, here's the scenario that is similar to the profile scenario a page or so ago. A resident says, Tommy, I do have a question, and I've been caught in the crossfire for this. I am aware that avatars aren't allowed in adult regions. I went to an adult region dressed as a stick person, but my profile clearly shows that I am a child. I got banned from a store because my profile states I'm a child, but I wasn't dressed as a child at the time. Can this get my account banned, or am I in good standing with the new policy? See, this scenario was already addressed by Kira, so we'll go back to that page. And Kira says, if you are reported and you are in an adult avatar, that is how we will evaluate the report. So even if you have I'm a child avatar in your profile, you go somewhere, you're not in that child avatar form, a stick figure, and you get banned, you're not breaking the policy, and perhaps that store owner just either didn't want to take a risk, or they were just being a butthead, or they just weren't aware of what the terms of service actually says. Moving on. Going back to skins, and someone said that is why it's confusing. Skins can be changed. Someone else says skins can be removed, changed, and people with unsavory intentions can create bomb layers that would go over the top of the baked layers to apply genitalia if desired. Skins can be changed. Yes, base skins can be changed by replacing them. Base skin, system skin, skin with the body icon in the inventory can only be replaced, not taken off. That is a skin that the modesty layers need to be imprinted into. Layer can be taken off. Like, with the tattoo icon, the layer icon, the makeup icon. So those can be taken off. Hopefully that helps as well. And Tommy Linden says, I realize some of you have individual one off scenarios that you want clarification on. And while I would love to be able to address every individual scenario, I am just not able to. The best I can tell you is that if you do end up in violation of the policy, unless it's incredibly egregious, you will likely receive a gentle educational warning from us, and then we will be able to resolve that. Kara Linda says, thank you everyone for coming. I greatly appreciate you all being here and helping to shape this policy. Here's my little note. It is not policy until it's approved. Remember what Kira stated on page 7, because she has to write up a proposal and to get it approved. So that's how I took it anyway. My last note, and this is in regards to Tommy, about the best I can tell you is that if you do end up in violation of the policy, my little note, the best. Oh, my monkey balls. The best would have been drawing up common scenarios in house and then applying the new policies to them in order to present them at this governance user group meeting. In other words, come prepared, have a round table of discussion and brainstorms. What might the residents ask? What kind of scenarios would they come up with? Write them down and then apply these new policies to those scenarios. And then come to the user group meeting with this great knowledge that we are all wanting clarification on, especially timelines and, you know, adjustment periods.
Step into the virtual. Welcome to the
We've been here for a while, so I'm just going to make this short. Hopefully, if you've made it this far, you've watched the entire presentation. I hope that all your questions were answered and that things are easier for you. If not, just let me know in the comments. Also, if you have anything you want to say, or if you want to react or respond, go ahead and do them in the comments. Just remember, don't be a douche.
secret light, you and I. In this digital paradise.
Alrighty, that's going to be it for me, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!